Today's episode of the Worn and Wound podcast is brought to you by Oris. You can catch Oris at the upcoming Wind Up Watch Fair in New York City, October 22nd through the 24th. Stay tuned to a bit later in the episode to learn more about Oris.
Hello and welcome to the Worn and Wound podcast. My name is Blake Bettner. We've got a full house in studio today. I am joined by Blake Mallet. Blake Mallet, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks very much. Here I am on the podcast.
There he is. We've also got Zach Weiss in studio. Zach Weiss, how are you? Welcome back.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
And on the screen, Mr. Zach Kazan. Zach Kazan, welcome.
Thanks. How's it going, everybody?
Excellent. We're all back in one piece. We have some vacations. We have some travel. Which is good. We all need that. Our producer Josh over here, he was traveling too.
Yep.
It's like the end of summer is like the time to get out of.
Yeah, it was perfect. It was really good. Really good. Did a little Euro tour. It was wonderful.
Euro tour. Look at that, man. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Get hat game on point again today.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah. What's it called? I got this in Belgium. Belgium or the Netherlands.
This was a pickup.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay.
This is a brand new pickup. So
right.
It's so hard to remember all the international travel, like where you get what hat.
I was hiking in the wilds of Utah, in southern Utah, this town called Escalante, which was barren but quite beautiful. I must say, shout out to Utah. What a beautiful state that is.
Yeah, it's nice out there.
All I got to say is like, wow, the diversity of the landscape and how quickly it changes out there. It's just incredible. Very cool experience that. We have a fun episode lined up today. We asked you for some unpopular opinions and hot takes, and boy, we might have to split this into an episode or two or three. There's a few of them that we got that I think could be whole episodes unto themselves. So thank you if you wrote in. We appreciate you. Before we get to that, though, we've got a couple of housekeeping things to attend to. I guess first and foremost, we can do a wrist check. Zach Kazan, what's on your wrist? Or do we even need to ask anymore?
No, you can always welcome to ask. I have I'm wearing a watch I haven't worn on the podcast in at least a little while. I'm wearing my the Laurier Worn and Wound Gemini limited edition.
Nice. He's got one.
Great choice.
That's the last watch I bought was a Laurier Gemini Worn and Wound, and it is awesome.
It's great
in person. Nice job.
Thank you.
That was before mine. Blake Mallet, what are you wearing?
I'm wearing a watch that I also don't think I've worn on the podcast, though I'm not on the podcast very often. This is the Young Hans Chronoscope Max Bill Edition from 2020.
Okay.
So this actually came as part of a box set with a Max Bill hand winding.
It's a 34 automatic, actually.
Oh, 34 automatic, yeah.
Automatic.
And sort of as a celebration post wind-up pop-up, Zach and I split the box set. So this is an awesome watch. You can't get it if it's not in a box set. It's all black case, black dial with white and gray markers. It's very cool. Super happy I got this.
It looks great on that strap too.
Yeah, I have it on one of our gray sort of suede leather straps, and it looks the business, as you would say.
Zach Weiss, what are you wearing?
I have on a Speedmaster 3920, so that's the reduced triple date. I figured with unpopular opinions and hot takes, this is probably my most triggering watch.
The most triggering of Speedmasters, right?
8 hands, bunch of windows.
Yeah.
Nothing
symmetrical. It's just just all
it's just screw you to the rules.
Yeah. Josh, what are you wearing over there?
I got my Timex Q root beer, which while I was away on vacation, I told you beforehand that I went to a Seiko store.
Yeah.
When I went to go try on a few Seikos, I took this off, and the guy said, "Oh, that's a nice Rolex," and I laughed.
Look at you.
Nice.
What did you say? I know.
They both ended.
I know. Yes. Don't look at it. Don't touch it.
That's awesome.
Well, that's cool. I actually am. I'm wearing a Rolex. I'm wearing the Rolex Explorer 124270. Our big review of it went up today, and we got some. You won't believe this. We got some comments about Rolex in our unpopular opinions and hot takes. So get ready. I thought I wasn't going to be the only one wearing a Rolex, but
I can't bring the heat every podcast. You know what I mean? Sometimes
all right.
you get a little weird.
Before we get to unpopular opinions and hot takes, we are just days away from starting the famous one and only Wind Up Watch Fair in New York's Chelsea Market. I'm really excited about this. It's been we didn't have one last year, unfortunately, but it's such a great event. Blake, tell us about what we can expect, and
Yeah, for
why we
sure.
should make it out.
Yeah, well, in many respects, it's sort of the tried and tested wind up that everybody knows and loves. I hope you love it. But yeah, we haven't been able to host one since October of 2019, so it's going to be a full 2 years since we last hosted a wind up in New York, or really anywhere. So yeah, it's a Chelsea Market, October 22nd through the 24th. That's a Friday through a Sunday. As always, free and open to the public. We've got a ton of brands, a lot of familiar faces. Oris and Zodiac and Hamilton will be coming back. But then we've got a lot of really great new brands. Norcane will be there for the first time. G-Shock will be there for the first time. And Seiko will be there for the first time, which is really huge, as will Victorinox for the first time. Spoiler alert, there might be a very special Victorinox easy to purchase walk away item that you can only get at Wind Up.
I got really nervous.
That you're going to want to check out. But yeah, it's just like a great roster of brands. Tons of familiar faces, Brew, Laurier, folks like that are going to be there, Astor and Banks, and just a bunch of like awesome watches in a very kind of like laid back environment. So yeah, we're super excited for it. I know folks, so far the feedback has been really positive and people are just like really antsy to get out there and do these kinds of things again. So, and I know the brands are super excited to show off their new stuff. So yeah, it'll be really great.
Yeah, very cool. I know we're all excited. Zach Kazan will be down in town for
Absolutely.
it. So I'll be there. If you want to come and chat watches, we're happy to do that. See a bunch of watches, go hands-on with a bunch of watches that you usually only see elsewhere. So and this is kicking off kind of a season, right? There's going to be more. Is there going to be more wind-ups elsewhere?
You betcha.
Too? So if you don't live in New York, right?
Correct. So for those of you who follow everything Warren & Wone does incredibly closely, specifically wind-up things, you know that we host a wind-up in San Francisco in the spring. Our plan is to host that event. And in 2020, our intention was to host an event in Chicago in the summer. And I can say that, barring unforeseen circumstance, that will be happening as well in 2022. And then also, spoiler alert, that you can expect a whole lot more from the wind up in New York next year. It's going to be a bigger and better and more dynamic, exciting event. So 2022 is going to be a big year for wind up.
Yeah, awesome. Can't wait. And there's plenty more information on warnerwow.com on that. Is there a special website?
Yes. You can click the events link on warnerwow.com or just go straight to windupwatchfair.com.
Cool. Yeah. We will look forward to seeing you there. If you're in New York or in the area, please do make the time to swing out. We'd love to see you. Okay, let's jump into it. Are you guys ready? Should we start with our own hot takes and unpopular opinions, or do we?
Should we warm up with a good hot take?
Should we warm up with a good hot take?
It's a good hot take. A nice juicy one.
You've got one.
I mean, it's like just start there and then we'll go. It'll be crazy.
Okay.
I want like an hors d'oeuvre hot take.
Okay, let's. Okay, well, let's just start out with this guy, J_Ram_1. The Rolex Explorer is preposterously overrated. There you go. Preposterously.
Not just overrated.
Not
but
just overrated.
preposterously
Yes,
overrated.
Preposterously overrated. So I always thought like the Explorer was a Rolex that like people that don't really like Rolex but they kind of like the Explorer. There's usually a soft spot for the Explorer, even if they're not a fan of the brand. I know that's like kind of how
I feel that way, particularly with in the modern lineup. It's really the only one that I personally find appealing.
Yeah, yeah. And so I guess this guy's. I wonder if he likes other. He's like, it's got to be.
Yeah, I kind of like his.
It's got to be a GMT. Screw the Explorer. I don't know what this is about, but
it's interesting.
But yeah, he's gunning for it. I don't agree, but I certainly respect your thoughts there. Hey, J_Ram_1, give my review a read on the site, and maybe it'll change your mind, maybe not. And or maybe you'd still
this
think
hot
it's
take was submitted before your review went online. I think we should clarify. So
Yeah.
It was.
it's clearly not making a comment on your rating of the sub.
That's true.
We
of
definitely
the
read your
Explorer.
review, and it's just like it all makes sense.
Yes,
Yeah.
not at
It's
all.
not overrated.
Well,
Yeah.
can I ask, in terms of overrating a product or when something is overrated, like what makes it overrated? Is it that it's overvalued and how much people are paying for it? Is it overhyped? Because I would say that, like,
It's an overhyping.
yeah, I mean, it's got to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like if this is a watch that he consistently sees mentioned in a positive manner online, and he doesn't see many people hating on it, and he thinks more people should be hating on it, that's why he's saying, "Oh, well, it's totally overrated." So he's got to be the one providing that.
I'm trying to get into the mindset because of the thing is the preposterously aspect of it's kind of throwing me off a little bit because I'm trying to think like what there's certainly watches I think are overrated or brands I think are overrated. And I'm thinking about some of the, but it's not like preposterously. But there's like, yeah, I don't know. There's watches you see like have a universal adoration for people have, and it's just like there's no critical thought necessarily going. It feels like it at least that there's just like pure. That is the best thing ever. To not love that is insanity. And I guess that sort of happens for the Explorer.
Yeah, well, that's this leads into this other one, Swolreloge.
Nailed it.
People don't buy watches they like anymore. They buy watches others like. So I think this is maybe like feeding. It touches on that a little bit. Like it's. Are we too lost in like what the like zeitgeist of Instagram hype or whatever is, that we don't like take a second to stop and think like, what are my feelings on that? How do I?
I think like my challenge with something like the Explorer is that I think like the beauty of it when you see it is that it is like a excellently executed everyday sport watch that sort of seamlessly fits into your life in a number of settings.
Yeah.
And it's produced by, Rolex, the leading watch company in the universe, whatever.
Yeah.
And, their quality and execution is pretty unimpeachable. And even, frankly, and not to look too forward at other questions, but like we often have this conversation in the office that you're so used to looking at Rolexes for their secondhand value that when you actually hear their list price, if you could actually buy it in the store, you're like, oh, that's not that bad.
Yeah.
So you're, obviously it's still thousands of dollars. And for many people, that's completely unattainable. But like in the scope of luxury watches for what it is, like it's not that bad. So I think like in that sense, I don't think it's overhyped, but I agree like at this inflated obsession and price point, it's like that's kind of against the whole principle of the watch. You know what I mean?
I think it also just goes to like, I think there's a general like lack of actual critical talk on about most things. But particularly on Instagram, it's not necessarily the forum for it either, social media. But like, I think a lot of people would just review it as a glossy review. I think you, in your review, which you should go to Warner One and read if we have anything, you have a lot of points that are positive about it, but then many that are sort of like neutral in a sense or like factual. Like you're not just overly saying like the movement is the greatest movement. Like you talk about that there's some concern about servicing for, and things like that. And like, that's just part of it. It's like, this is hailed as the greatest watch ever or one of, frankly, all Rolexes are. And like, I don't know, that's part of the problem.
But that's in the like historical context of like, oh, this is the watch that did this, and it's kind of like you heap this praise upon it. But to me, that's like missing the point. And that's like if you don't really understand, like you're just buying into that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's like feeding into it, and it's not healthy. And in my review, I try to kind of just leave that out altogether. And I confront at the end of it, look, it's an expensive watch. There's lots of other really great watches you can get for way less money. Go check them out. More power to you. But yeah, I think there was a few surprise reactions that this watch only, quote unquote, costs $6,400 MSRP. That seems about. Yeah. I don't know. That seems right.
I mean, if you're looking for a great three-hand sport watch, you certainly don't need to buy an Explorer. I think everyone just needs
definitely
to
not.
That,
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah. Yeah, we're not here to tell you like you need to have a Rolex or an Explorer by any stretch.
The other question though, or like statement is interesting too, and I feel like that's a real like fight starter. It's a good question. It's like, I think looking at from the outside at like Instagram. I mean, social media just brings out the worst in everyone. There's now, I mean, like. People are dealing with this on a larger scale. This is a problem in how we see the world. But on one hand, like it's like buying a watch and then you post it and then you get no response.
Yeah.
And as somebody who owns a lot of watches that nobody gives a shit about, like I feel that, you post something, you're like 25 likes on that one, but then you post your friend's Rolex Explorer and then it gets like 500 likes and you're like, okay. But that certainly shouldn't be the motive behind buying it. It's just an unfortunate reaction to our time and that we're living,
Yeah, it's just that that dopamine high of seeing the but throw your Instagram account away and then what? So you're right.
Yeah.
The social does bring out the worst in a lot of it. Some people it brings out the best of, and one of those people I would say is Zach Kazan.
Yes.
Zach Kazan, what are your thoughts on? Seriously, check out Zach Kazan's stories. Sometimes they're pretty amazing. Zach Kazan, what do you make of the Explorer?
So maybe I like the Explorer. I think the Explorer is it's a perfectly fine sports watch. Maybe I'm alone here, but I feel like it's maybe the least hyped of the Rolex sports watches. Like it seems like it's the least discussed overall between, if you look at the Explorer, the GMT, the Daytona, the Sub. I see a lot more content, a lot more on Instagram in particular with those other sports watches. Maybe this year is a little bit of an exception because there's a new Explorer, but so yeah, I guess I just don't see it as overrated. I feel like it's probably perfectly appropriately rated, at least when it comes to social media. At this particular moment in 2021, at least.
Yeah.
Can I ask? So those retail for $6,400, and there's only one version to get. It's just the Explorer, right?
Now there's two. There's a bimetal. There's a steel and gold.
Oh, okay. Right. So what is the street value of one of those? Like, because you can't get them, right?
Between like mid 9s and mid 10s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that personally, for me, that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
It's like, again, it's all relative, and I have no misunderstandings about the fact that $6,400 is, again, like well outside people's means.
Yeah.
For a ton of folks, but like, if you're collecting for a long time, and we've had this conversation, you buy a bunch of stuff and then maybe you consolidate and you invest in one thing. Like, I don't know, 6,400 is like within the realm of possibility, I think, for some folks. And for the kind of person where that is, I think 10 just pushes it beyond. For a lot of people. And like, that's
there's a mental barrier there.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of money. No question about it. But this guy, the next guy, a Pelagos.pm, no one buys a Rolex and keeps a Rolex. And then parenthetical, except Explorer. Rolex is a brand for resellers. So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to wear mine.
Sure.
And honestly, we got a number of comments that I have a very similar sentiment to this. Like, modern Rolex are way too overbuilt for their modern use case, sitting in a case in a safe from classic cars of DC. Let's see here. I think that there's probably like 3 or 4 that we got that had a very similar sentiment to this. But I don't know. I don't agree with that. Maybe I'm the exception to that rule. I have a few and I wear them quite often, and I've got the marks and scratches on all of them to prove it. I feel like this is kind of a lose it, because I've seen some people say, if I treat a Submariner as a tool watch that I think it is, and I do like kick around stuff in it, and some people say like, oh, that's so insensitive. It's an expensive object and it's a Rolex, and you're treating it like it's a little, but to me, like, that's kind of part of what it is to me, and that's how I use it. I think so. And to me, and I've said this on here before, like, watches are what you make of them. And to me, these are like tool watches that are explicitly for, I only wore this in Utah and hiked all over for it or with it, and, picked up a number of scratches here and there on it and all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't think twice about it. I mean, am I alone in this? Do you guys know people? The people that I know that own Rolexes wear them.
Yeah. I mean, I always think of my dad when I think of Rolex, because my dad has been a Datejust from the 80s that he bought in the 80s, back apparently when you go walk into a store and buy a Rolex, and he has worn them constantly, for my entire life, the entire time I've known him, as it goes. And they've never been precious in that way. Granted, like, the culture has changed significantly since when he got them, and so has, frankly, the style of the watches. Yeah. And that's not to say that's a good thing, but I think it's at peak toxicity right now around this stuff, and it's like there's a sense once I think it's on social media, but if you're like watching social media, it really feels like it is a buying and selling game for Rolex, and it is not a game about enjoy. It's not. It's just not about like what you do. That's not the front. That's not like the first thing you see about watches or about Rolex right now. And so it's very unsetting. It's that I can't get it, or when you do get it, that it's going to go for this much, or et cetera. And it's like that is unfortunate. I think like that could eventually maybe blow back on Rolex. It's sort of like your brand story is no longer that story of even the history of it. It's all there in the background, but it's becoming about buying and selling, and it's unfortunate. But at least you can go and buy a different watch. If it's ugly to you right now, go buy a different watch. The culture will change eventually. I think.
And if that's like your thing, if that's all you see around you, I would like branch out a little more, because there are a lot of us and a lot of the people that have been around for a while that don't view Rolex like that, or any of the other, I guess hype stuff. I don't know, but anyways, so I don't think that's a hard and fast rule by any stretch. All right, I want to jump to this guy, or gal, AFR_G. Okay, he's got a few of them that he just fires off. The Hublot Mecha 10 is cool. Grand Seiko are most definitely overpriced. Baselworld was a good thing for the end consumers. So there you go. That's a lot. That's a lot. The Hublot is cool. All right, man. I got no issue there. I
don't even know what that was.
Same.
Yeah.
It's the Mecha 10. Come on.
It's the Mecha 10. Yeah, no,
I had to look it up too, but I did before we came.
I'm gonna look it up now.
and yeah, I mean, I got if that's the style of watch you like, more power to you, man. Grand Seiko are most definitely overpriced. Now, this part, I think, I don't know. I guess maybe some. This feels like you could take a few routes. I know that some of the pricing strategy on newer ones has changed or shifted a little bit.
They're creeping up.
They're creeping up, but they're also becoming wildly more successful. So what does that tell you?
Yeah, and I think for let's just take that white birch for example. Yeah. I think that watch is worth every penny that they're asking for it, and if you hold it in your hand, there's no doubt about that. Now, I don't know which this person is talking about, so I don't know, but I would say like that's when I just like think of the new Grand Seiko watches that are out there. That's not a thought that pops into my mind right off the bat. But
I think there's if you've been around for a little while, you've seen the prices go up, and that is it is going up quick enough that it's obviously like an effort to raise the prices in the brand, and I think change the brand positioning to where it's supposed to be. Is the thing. It's not like a brand that is getting above its like a station it earns. Like if anything else, like you compare Grand Seikos to Omegas and Rolexes, and like they hold their own or surpass in many ways. I think particularly on finishing, most people would argue they have higher quality finishing, some of the best out there. And on a watch like the white birch, I mean the mechanics on that are insane, and and forgot what the other thing I was going to say was, so you can pass it. Oh, the Mecha 10. I think that's a cool looking watch.
The price of everything's going up. Yeah. Like a Speedmaster costs more now than it did, 3 or 4 years ago. So I think that's just kind of the reality of, like this hobby. There's a certain amount of inflation that's just sort of like built into it, and these objects get more expensive as the years go by.
Yeah.
But they get better too. Like I would argue that like the Speedmaster, the 2021 Speedmaster is better than the 2020 Speedmaster, and I think Grand Seikos are improving in a similar way too.
I have like fairly strong feelings about his last or her last hot take about Baselworld being good for the general public. I completely agree. I think that Baselworld has made a lot of mistakes, and they clearly weren't sort of upholding, or they weren't meeting, brands' expectations where they wanted out of that show. But anybody who says that like that time of year when everybody goes to Basel, and the fact that like, all the news is breaking and the blogs are sort of inundated with this news, and then, and then with Basel, it wasn't just that you could go see the major brands. I mean, there were halls upon halls of brands. You could go discover weird things, and then people could be sort of giving brands that maybe don't get as much attention, some attention during this sort of like peak frenzy. I just don't think, and I also think that, to a certain extent, Baselworld, once you got in, I mean, for a company like ours, it kind of was sort of the proving ground, and it was a place for you to really kind of get your foot in the door as like a serious publication. So I don't know. I feel like the hype and the sort of like deluge of content was nothing but good for people. Like, I think people enjoyed it. I don't think anybody complained about like, oh, this is too much hands-on photos of cool new watches,
Yeah, no, it's such an exciting week.
Yeah.
And it was something that you like really look forward to the whole year. It was like, Super Bowl week of it all. And it was just like fun experiencing all of it. Like, what worked, what didn't, or this brand did that, this brand. I can see like for some brands, it's easy for watches that we maybe see released and really like, but maybe would have just gotten like lost in the shuffle if it wasn't like spectacular or whatever it was. But like, so I think now it's good that brands can do their thing, and like the watches can come out and have their like room to breathe, and we can like fully take it in. But I miss the like adrenaline and it's all gonna just get kind of dumped on your lap over this next like couple of days, and then it's gonna be really fun to go through and like make sense of for the next like couple of months.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that even like we're sort of talking about this in the office. So there's obviously Watches and Wonders next year, and then there is going to be a Baselworld. But as of right now, they have not listed the brands that are going to be attending, or at least like as of the last time I looked, which was I think earlier this week. And assuming that they even have like a fairly robust list of brands, like we're not going to have that same experience of walking into Hall 2.2 and meeting some obscure, person who's making watches by hand in Europe, or even who's just trying to start a micro brand, but like they're not in the US, so they're not on our radar, or whatever the case may be, or, going across the street to the hotel and like meeting interesting brands and having, like, you just are not going to have that experience. Yeah. And I just think it's a missed opportunity, and I think people are going to miss that. And I think, I know I'm personally going to miss it, just sort of like, getting to go see those new products. But, it's just, right now it seems like the sort of big watch events are going to be just a lot more exclusive. I mean, I hope that's not the case, but it seems like that's what's kind of happened.
Yeah, it's on a personal level, there's a lot more that I miss about it. That's hard to translate to the customer. Like seeing RJ, Frank, and all the people from all the other kind of blogs, like just having time together to chat, have beers, and get to know each other a little bit better, and what's going on in their life, and I miss that kind of thing a lot for sure. Like we're all kind of doing the same thing and in the same world together, so it's nice kind of having and maintaining those kinds of relationships. So I don't know. What will you admit? Are you gonna miss Baselworld, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, certainly aspects of it. Yeah. It was an intense time at time, and like I think in the best years when like a lot of really good product was coming out, and like the energy was at its kind of like highest, which was probably a little earlier on when we first started going, because the last couple of years was like it was noticeably a little bit quieter. I mean, parts of the buildings were literally shut down, or you'd walk down, there's these back alleys, and there used to be vendors in there and things, and there was just like darkness, and you'd be like, this is creepy, like what's going on? Like it just had a different feel. It wasn't the same energy, but it was still like a ton of content and a ton of just fun watch talk, and we recorded all these podcasts, and we had like content for like weeks after it, or even more sometimes, because you kind of like dip back in your photos and you find something, you like write a second kind of opinion on stuff. And I mean, it's just I think our Super Bowl, I think that's a good way to put it. I mean, and from the outside world, it's just like that was the moment that the spotlight was put on the watch industry globally, in a real way. Yeah. And it's different now. And the fact that it's going to happen in some way at the exact same time as this other event, which has grown. And now we used to not go to SIHH just because the brands there weren't really the most relevant at the time to Warner Around. But now this new event is 100% relevant to us. I mean, Tudor will be there, Grand Seiko will be there, several other brands will be there. Like, we're going to have to go to that. And there's a simultaneous event we're going to have to figure out going to in another city. But we don't even know what the brands are going to be yet. And but I imagine, Grand Seiko won't be there. Tudor won't be there. So like, I don't know. It's going to be strange. See how it all kind of unfolds. But
Well, I agree. Well, hopefully it's not the total end of it. But for my body's sake, I hope we don't have to be. carting all over the.
You know where you can see a diverse array of brands, both large and small.
Lay it on us.
The Wind Up Watch Fair coming to a city near you. Next up, New York. End of this month.
Yep.
In a week, in a few days.
All right, I want to jump to this guy. He shot 4 of them at us right in a row. Ken Heinlein. Here's your time, man. And actually, I think we could talk for quite a bit on all 4 of them. Okay, so first off, sapphire case backs stick to the wrist and are less comfortable than closed. Actually, my hot take was going to be around the sapphire
to
case
the wrist.
I don't really care for sapphire case backs on most watches, and I guess my preference would be without them. Yeah, this is the first time that I've heard this. This stick to the wrist and are less comfortable than closed.
That's new for me.
That hasn't crossed mine. And then okay, and then leading into the next one, uncomfortable watches may be fun to look at, but aren't worth owning.
This episode is brought to you by Oris. Oris has been making mechanical watches in Holstein, Switzerland since 1904 and is one of the few Swiss watch companies to remain independent. Beyond useful and inventive complications at prices that make sense, Oris is on a mission to change for the better, making ecologically responsible choices and is proudly climate neutral this year. To mark this accomplishment, the brand has introduced the Aquis Date Upcycle, a version of their high-performance diver's watch with a colorful dial made of recycled PET plastic. The recycling process produces random patterns, so no 2 upcycled dials are the same. This unique timepiece comes in 41.5mm and 36.5mm stainless steel case options and features a unidirectional rotating diver's bezel, 38-hour power reserve, and Swiss-made automatic mechanical movement. Oris is committed to continue making the Aquis Date Upcycle for as long as there is demand, with the hope that customers will choose this design and in turn help eliminate the world's ocean plastic crisis. Visit www.oris.ch to learn more. And don't forget to join us at the Wind Up Watch Fair at Chelsea Market in New York City from October 22nd through the 24th to see the Aquis Date Upcycle and many other Oris watches in person.
Agreed.
Completely agree. Yeah. Nothing too.
That's like a lukewarm take. Like that's barely. That's just obvious.
Okay. Well, these next two, hold on to your butts. Non-tapered bracelets are never comfortable. No reason for these to ever be on a watch. I like a tapered bracelet. I like the dramatic.
I like a real tapered bracelet.
Like a real taper.
Yeah, like
I've
6mm.
100%. I think are great and comfortable. And I don't think you really notice until you come across a watch that has like 0 taper in the bracelet.
Yeah.
And a few come to mind that I won't mention, but it's like, oh my gosh, this feels like I don't know. Like,
it's a cuff.
A truer statement has rarely been said than bracelets need a taper.
I mean, at this point, we used to get a lot of straight bracelets, and you had the 2mm taper, and then you would see the 4 and the 6. And once you're in that range, you're in it's good.
Yeah.
I can't even go back to a 2mm taper at this point.
Yeah,
what is this?
Yeah. And okay, and now the most 6 p.m. dates are the worst. The worst. Capital THE, capital WRST. So this took me by surprise. I thought people even the non-date people were like, oh well, just put it at 6 because then at least it keeps the symmetry of the dial.
Yeah.
There, and of course the date is the most useful complication that you can have. So this is a new one for me. What do you guys think about the 6 p.m. Date apertures?
What a moron!
He's saying they're the worst, which means they're worse than 430, or I mean,
I'm taking this guy is more offended by 6 p.m. date than a 4:30 than a 3 o'clock than a 12 o'clock.
I was going to say I love a 6 p.m. date.
Yeah,
and I'm ready for 12 p.m. dates to become a normal thing. I want to see more 12 p.m.
Oversized.
Yeah.
12 p.m.
Just like a big top of the watch date. I don't know, sounds really
I think that saying like date placements in any one particular place are just wrong. One, stop all the date window hate. Just everybody needs to get over it. But also, like some of us need to know what day it is. Like God forbid. But also like that's I don't know. That's like it just depends on the watch design. Like to your point, like a 12 o'clock date could make sense. A 9 o'clock date could make sense. I mean, rarely. I mean, probably and not in a ton of circumstances.
A 9 o'clock date?
Yeah.
There's some really cool vintage watches with 9 o'clock dates. And like the Omega DeVille chronograph. I don't know what the Mooch movement it was, but like if people probably know which one I'm talking about that has the 9 o'clock date. And like if there was a model that Omega should bring back, like that is it. It is just so cool. And for some reason the 9 o'clock date like makes it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like the 4:30 date. I also like the Damasco date. You know, it's at 3, but it's really at like 17 past because it's below
off the
line.
horizon.
It's off.
I forgot about that.
I like that. Dates
I
of
also,
all kinds.
when we did our wind-up edition to Moscow DS30, really all I changed was move the date from 3 to 6
Yeah.
because that was what it needed for me, for my eyes.
Yeah. Hot take, shut down.
Yeah.
Hot take, cooled off.
Yeah, cool. Put it on ice.
Zach, is there anything you want to add?
I mean, I'm on the record as being pretty agnostic about.
No,
date
none of
windows.
that
Like,
talk.
I
Zach.
well, no, that's. I mean, I don't have a hot take on dates, man. Like,
Okay.
I it's just not something I care about a lot. Maybe that's my hot take is that like I don't care about dating.
It doesn't.
Can we expand?
Sure.
Like, what do you think about like date aperture, like day month windows and week windows and pointers and like, is anything bother you, Zach?
I'm pretty unbothered at this point by most things.
You know what?
But
Watch
it also for real. Like all I really care about is that it's like it doesn't look kind of like cheaply like done as an afterthought. Like I think that like you kind of know it when you see it when a date window is like well thought out and like it can work in harmony with the rest of the dial at any position if it's like if there's some thought behind it, or it can just be slapped together at the last minute.
No.
And I'm not about it being slapped together at the last minute, but I do think that they can work well pretty much. Anywhere.
So it's about execution, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I have a date related hot take that I'm just formulating now.
Okay.
So in that sense, it's not very well thought out.
Lay it on us.
And I'm sure there are lots of holes in it in my personal preferences, but I don't like pointer dates.
Huh.
Every time
I'm wearing a pointer date and I'm really upset right now.
Yeah, as you should be, because you're dumb.
It's a good thing I'm sitting over here.
Yeah. Keep me back.
We sit next to each other in the office.
Yeah, I know.
Fisticuffs later. No, but whenever I wear a pointer date, and there are many pointer dates I really like, but like the look of. But whenever I wear a pointer date, I'm always like, "Where's the date? Where is it?" I'm looking, there are all these hands, and it takes me a while to figure out where it's pointing. And then sometimes the numbers are really small, and I can't see it properly. And there's just a lot going on. It's like, did you need to use a whole hand and a ring around the watch to put the date? Like, one of the nice things with the windows, it's just there. You know where to look. It's always one in the same place.
Yeah. Like, is that the minute hand? Is it the seconds hand?
Is this a chronograph? What is this? What is this?
This watch looks different 31 days out of the month. You know what I mean?
All right,
Every day,
there you go.
one
Every
hand
day
just
is
is in a different
different.
place. It's unique. It changes. You know,
Whatever.
You know, there's some really cool pointer date. The coolest pointer date execution I've seen is naturally on a Roger Smith. So not a watch you're probably going to pick
the
up.
traveling.
Yeah, so it's like a little like bracket.
Yeah.
So the dial's layered and it's sort of like a little bracket around the edge, so the hand doesn't cross the rest of the dial. It's very nice. Very nice.
That's cool.
So this is also relevant to new releases, but I imagine that Patek Philippe annual calendar chronograph must piss a lot of people off. Like if you are date window sensitive, that watch must be horrible.
Yes,
And that's probably why I like it.
This is an annual calendar chronograph, and it's got the three apertures kind of like exploding.
Yeah, they're flaring.
Center. So they kind of like there's like a 3-point perspective happening. On the dial.
They're on the top. They're flaring. I think the one in the middle, which is probably the date itself, has a frame, and the other two don't have frames. Yeah. It's like it's just a real.
It's the same on the 5960. What's the new rev 5905, something like that. But yeah, it's that one's yeah.
I will throw in one hot take that is semi in agreement with yours. I don't love small pointer dates. So when there's like a sub dial that's a pointer date.
Oh yeah, no.
But unless it's with a moon phase as well. If it's with the moon phase, somehow that makes sense. But when it's just like a sub dial for a pointer date, I'm like, what is this all about?
Yeah, you can't see it. The numbers are so small. You know, it's too much. Leave it to Patek Philippe to figure out the date window. They did it. They did it.
But on the other release, it was exactly what.
Yeah, they released another one with a small
5204, I think.
But is that with the moon phase?
Yeah, it has the moon phase.
No, well then that's okay.
Oh, okay. But did you see they brought the chin back, like on the early 5270s, I think.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah,
I don't know what you're talking about. The chin.
It's got the chin. All right, let's get back to to dates. Well, this guy, Righteous, but WRIGHT, Righteous 55, dive watches shouldn't have date windows. There you go. There was another date. Date Cyclops are hideous.
Get out of here.
Stop me from even considering most. You know, not all of us have great eyesight, and it's helpful to people.
But that's also
cool.
ridiculous.
They're
That's
cool.
that's a completely. You're
It is
wrong.
such a clever way to make a date larger without having to futz around with mechanics and whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
Genuinely useful. I like the
Yeah.
Cyclops.
I don't own a Rolex with a date complication. So does anybody else?
What day is it?
Yeah,
Right now. Do you even know?
I have an Explorer too, and it has a Cyclops.
Yeah, you look again.
It's
I don't
great.
even know. What is it?
It's
It's
great.
the 14th. Look at that.
It's great. You can see.
Yep.
It adds character.
Yeah. Also, the date window on a dive watch thing is right up there with like, don't wear a leather strap with a dive watch. If you're really diving, get the right dive equipment. For the rest of us, whatever.
All right, Zach. Here you go. This one's for you, Zach Kazan, getting called out here by Belovas and Bolt Actions. I feel like we've had comments from.
Yeah,
this,
he actually came to the
he's very
pop-up
active.
shop.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Well, he's putting you on notice, dude. Gold
go.
and green dials are ugly. Sorry, Zach. Deal with it.
I mean, it's part of what I love about that watch, my SPGH 271, is that it's pretty unusual and like
Unusually ugly. You mean?
Maybe it is kind of a little bit ugly in like a charming sort of way. I can't disagree with that. Like, if you, but who am I to say that something's not ugly when you really think about it?
Gold and green is a classic combination. No, I don't know if I
Yeah, it
agree
really
with
is.
this. It's like green goes well with warm metals, particularly if they tarnish a bit or patinate. It's kind of a color that's in there a bit. So.
Well, I am
just not for
from
everyone.
the state of Wisconsin, so when I think of green and gold, my mind goes to their sport ball team, the Green Bay Packers, which is a very different kind of green and gold.
I was really hoping it was some sort of beer reference there.
Well, let's see here. Yeah, I know. I mean, if you're from Wisconsin, though, your head goes to the Green Bay Packers when I think of green and gold, and that's a very different.
Now I'm gonna think about that every time.
Now I'm gonna say
look
Zach
at that
has the
watch,
Green Bay
which is-
Packer watch on.
You've just ruined it for me.
Sorry.
It's like,
Can I ask a quick question now that we're on the topic of Grand Seiko, which is this is sort of a hot take, but sort of not. I love Grand Seiko. This is not a statement about their watches, but like,
It's just that they're trash.
yeah, when you're trying to get into Grand Seiko, how on earth do you navigate the reference number thing? We've talked about this before that like they don't have like colloquial names for their watches. They do some of them, but like they don't have like non-numeric alphanumerical names for their watches. And like I know the watch you're talking about, Zach, I've seen it many times, but like if we were just having a casual conversation about Grand Seiko, I would be completely lost.
yeah.
That's understandable.
I'm terrible with reference numbers for every brand. The only reason I know that reference number for that Grand Seiko is because I own it and I write the show notes for this podcast. And, like, it's it becomes like second nature after a while. But like I generally speaking, for me, like I tend to learn the reference numbers of the watches that I own. But everything else, it might as well just be like totally random series of numbers.
Maybe that's why Rolex watches are stuck, because they have names that are easy to remember.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Milgauss, Sea Dweller, Sky Dweller, Submariner, Explorer.
Right? People have it like encyclopedic recall of Rolex reference numbers too. Like it's just it's crazy. Like I have friends in my local watch meetup group that just like they rifle off reference numbers. I'm sure you've all experienced this, that it seems like they're speaking another language at times because it's just so.
What I find crazy about the reference number thing too is that because I'm terrible at it as well. I only know the watches I have like around the time when I first get them, and then eventually I forget. Like this might not be 3920. I'm thinking about that now. It might be, and also it might be 3520, and I'm not sure anymore. Is that people will rattle off, especially like 4-digit numbers, like. They'll do Patek, AP, Rolex, and whatever, all in one conversation. But like everyone knows when you say 5711 that is the Patek reference. Everyone in these conversations knows. But like that's one I know because it gets said a lot, But then, they'll switch over to AP and they'll switch over to the other one. It is pretty wild. It is another language. It really is.
Yeah.
But with Grand Seiko, exact same thing. So I have the SPGA 375. That's one I know the number of. I know the number of one that may or may not be on pre-order. And then I don't know the others. I don't even know the number you said before for yours. And I found like it was kind of impossible. And I tried to even sometimes try and figure out a logic like, oh, the SGP models are of one thing, and it's not that easy either because they kind of jump around. Like the cases might not be the same. I more looked at them in terms of like movements and case shapes, and then or you could go by like the groupings because there's heritage, dress, and sport. I don't. Yeah. So there's like ways to kind of find it, or like you're like, oh, like those ones are the ones with the like that elegance case, or that's in the spring collection, or like mine is a 44 GS case, and there's like all these different models there. So it's like the 44 GS case with the 9F quartz and the white dial, and something like that.
Yeah.
But it's not as smooth. You know?
Our minds work in weird ways. The things that I hold on to sometimes, and I know reference numbers, I don't know why. But then, like, my mom will have to remind me that it's my sister's birthday, like, tomorrow. But then I'll remember weird things, like the gal that put together the datograph movement. Yeah. Like, I have Annegret Fleischman. Fleischer?
Sure. Half remember.
Yeah, half remembered it. Yeah. But stuff like that will just stick out in my head, and then the stuff that I should probably be remembering is a little less nailed down up there sometimes. Yeah. Okay, we got another few comments. Back to the date thing real quick, just to call out our guy. It tells the time. There is no such thing as a well-placed date window. They all suck equally.
Wow.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah,
I give him credit for consistency. Like at least he's not trying to
having it
land on some middle ground.
Well, now we have to. I'm trying to remember. He did the last reader 3 for 5K. Now we'll have to check it and make sure none of them have dates.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
On there.
Do these people have to be somewhere at a specific day? Do they just kind of wander around life doing things willy-nilly whenever they feel fit? Or do they actually have to be on a schedule?
No. None of that matters.
Sometimes you need to write a check or something. You need to know.
And there's no other devices on Earth with
how do
the
you,
date. It's
how do you navigate your life without a date on your watch?
You know?
Okay, there's a couple of comments on here that have the same. Let's see here, TK3612 Scott.Hickman. Stop the needless paragraphs of text on watch dials. It's a watch face. And not an English 101 paper. TK3612, shorten the amount of writing on the Rolex dial already.
Yeah.
I think there was another one in there too. Yeah, I don't know. This is something that, like, I guess that has not really gotten under my skin.
It's never really bothered me either.
It bothers me when
Zach.
a watch changes. Oh yeah,
Zach, you need to be really bothered. Pick something to be really bothered.
Yeah.
Unacceptable. But remember the Pelagos when it moved to the in-house, like people had the same.
Yeah.
Because it's there's like 5 lines on there.
I used to own a Pelagos. I used to own a Pelagos, and
it really bothers me when people mispronounce the name of that.
There you go.
No, like the text on the dials of the new color ones just completely ruins that watch face for me. Completely, it's ridiculous. Way too much.
So it does get under.
100%. 100%. It's ridiculous on that watch.
And the thing that's for me that bothers me, it's like, it can be like visually an eyesore depending on the watch. What I was going to think about it was we were looking at watches today that had unusually large brand name on them, and we won't bring them up. But it's also just that, like, it's my watch. I don't need that information every time I see it. Yep. You know what I mean? It's like I learn it. I learned that the Pelagos is called the Pelagos. Doesn't need to say that on the dial for my benefit. Even worse, sometimes you have watches that have like, it'll say like date with a little arrow. It's like, cool, thanks. Can that have been like on the like sticker that protected the crystal the first time?
Yeah.
But then, and then I was thinking like that maybe that's even true for brand names. It is a little, when you take a brand name off, there is a feeling, sort of an emptiness of a dial. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I understand more from a product perspective, like all products have branding on them, but like a watch as a machine doesn't need that for anything. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a sign of confidence, right? Like I think of like those Seiko watches.
Yeah,
nothing on there.
And it bugs some people out to not have anything on the dial, but
also it's Pelagos.
Pelagos. All right, Ekinaona. Why am I so bad at saying
Here's a hot take. Everyone needs to start getting usernames on social media that you can like pronounce properly. All these crazy names are too much.
Watch spotting is lame. L1, 2, 3, 4, 5 A's in it. Yeah.
What else is there to say? It is lame.
Yeah.
And then here's another one that we could probably Well, this one we probably talk a lot on. The Keyless Connection says modded watches are just Franken watches.
Can I comment? Can I comment on the watch spotting thing real quick?
Yeah,
Can I
okay, yes, lay it on us. Yeah.
So, I agree, and I think part of the trepidation. I'm just going to go out on a limb here, okay?
Yeah.
I think part of the reason you don't want to go in, you too, maybe Zach too. I don't know.
Who, me?
Yeah, you too, all of you.
About what?
Here's the thing, because other publications do this,
Yeah.
and my critique of it, I don't want to make this a judgment of them. Or be like, they're dumb for doing this, or it's anything like that. It's not like a judgment of those other publications. I'm not trying to like talk shit about like anybody else who does this kind of thing.
But
I literally could care less what somebody's wearing. Like I really never see those things and think, oh, that's cool. Even when it's someone I like even when it's a celebrity or an athlete or some significant figure who I like, I never think like, well, there it is. Like, that's so cool that person has that watch on. I just never give a shit. So it's like, again, it's not a judgment that people are doing it. And maybe people do care. But like, whenever I see them, it's like, this is so pointless. Like, why does that elevate your enjoyment of a product at all? You know?
Look, I don't find anything compelling about it either. And that's why you don't really see it on Worn and Wound. What do you think, Josh?
No, I feel exactly the same way. I don't understand why people like. For me, like a watch is such like a personal thing, but for me, I'm just like I don't understand why anyone. I mean, you have to wear your watch every single day. It's about, like you guys always say, it's about the stories and the experiences you have with the watches that you wear. So yeah.
And it's just like this like celebrity worship kind of culture stuff that happens now,
especially on the red carpet. That's really drives me kind of nuts because like I understand it's a big deal for brands, whatever, they really like it, but like. Those watches were put on by stylists and there's like a whole network of people often behind like that watch getting there. So it's not really that authentic to me for that person to be wearing that watch. If it's the watch they own and that's the watch, like that's a different story. Like if they are interested in watches and they, they love those watches, there's like different levels to it, but still I don't really need to know what X celebrity was wearing. If like, it's a lot less interesting than like being on the subway and seeing somebody with like a Journe on. You're like, oh shit, there's a person who really likes watches. And there was one watch spotting last week, which I actually thought was cool, and I commented. It was in a GQ, and it was Kumail Nanjiani.
Kumail
Nanjiani. He was wearing one of the new Zenith Chronomasters in a GQ shoot. And I was like, I hope that's his watch because he seems like a cool dude and might like a cool watch, but I don't know. Might have just been put there.
Yeah, I just feel like the insinuation with that stuff is that like this should add additional value to this product for you, which like to me it's just like never ever in a million years. I get way more excited if you're like randomly on the subway and somebody's got a sin on. Or like the guy down at the deli, the young kid who sometimes works the register and has a 007 on. I'm like, oh, that's sweet. What does he read? Worn and Wound? He's got a 007 on an aftermarket NATO. Like, does he know who we are? Like that is way more interesting to me because like it actually means something. It's like a connector to you and that person.
Yeah, I think, but knowing like if this is a celebrity or not or whatever, like just knowing that, oh, I know that person is actually into watches, then I might find it more interesting rather than like. I have a lot of money and I can just kind of like skip right to the end and buy, whatever. And, good for you. Congratulations. That's great. But like, as far as like just an enthusiast, to your point, like it doesn't not really adding any value to me or how I view that brand or that watch, fine.
But, or, to give, or what like Hodinkee does, for example, with the talking watches. I mean, that's very much a different take on a very similar subject, though they also do watch spotting regularly. Like, they're talking watches. It's like, but what's interesting is that they have this curated collection. It's interesting to see what their interests are and hear the stories. Like that all has value. It's not just that it's a celebrity and
completely.
You know what I mean? Like interesting stories are there to be told. It's the same thing with like, a flashy car is a flashy car, but then you're like, oh, that person has like a really interesting taste in cars and they have an interesting car collection, whatever. So
what about you, Zach? Does celebrity watch spottings move you?
I love pop culture. I'm interested in celebrities. That stuff like fascinates me. I'm a movie buff. I love music and like, entertainment and like.
Who's your favorite housewife?
I don't know. Not a universe I'm currently involved in. I don't care about watch spotting at all. Primarily for the reasons that Zach pointed out is that like they're styled by professionals or they're brand ambassadors and it's not really it just doesn't seem like authentic to me. Like it doesn't, I think we're on the same page. It doesn't really add any value.
Hot take, celebrity ambassadors equally as bad.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
I think I've said that several
hold on. Hey, if you are a celebrity and you're listening to us right now and you're offended by this because you're like, hey, I like watches. I pick out my own watches. I buy my own watches. I think about it. You're welcome to come on the podcast and talk to us about it. We'll make room for you. If we have time for one more, maybe we just crack this one open and leave it hanging there because I feel like we could maybe talk about this. And it's a couple of commenters. Watch Taylor Youth, and then Crown Mover. I like that one. Almost the exact same comment. In-house movements are totally overrated. In-house movements are overrated. So yeah, I think this is maybe something broader here, and I think we all kind of land on the same it's not we put all the stock in the world into just that, and I know it's become like a really big thing now, and it's like important for brands to be able to say that. And if they do and they do it well, more power to them. But like if they didn't, like I wouldn't think less of like if I saw if a brand made a watch that I really liked and was compelled by, and it had an ETA, Sellita, or like an in-house movement. I'd probably still like the watch if it had an ETA or a Sellita in it, just fine.
It's not the that thing
happens
that
all the
makes
time
a
with me.
brand.
Yeah,
for me certainly. I feel like it used to be more of like the hype thing around a brand, like they can do it in house.
Yeah,
they can make therefore they are brand. Like until then they are not brand. But for me, I'm more interested in like whether or not they make their own movements or not is if they do interesting things with them.
Yeah,
so it's like if you make a movement and it's a 2024 clone, like, but that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, but like what Oris does with their the 12-day automatics,
that's cool stuff.
And just even like the design of those is very cool. Like how functional it is and sort of how in your face with the giant barrels and all that stuff. Like that's very neat.
Yeah.
But like I think one thing, like I feel like a brand that I've talked to you guys about in the past is like Nomos with their in-house movements, and I feel like when we first kind of got into this, they were all seen as like this sort of more approachably priced company that has in-house movements, and as they've expanded their technology specifically to automatics, those watches have gotten much higher price. Like they're much more expensive. Like they're in the $4,000+ range, and like I wish I could enjoy the design and the quality of Nomos at a price that was a little bit more attainable. If that makes sense. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I know that they do have some hand-wound movements that are still at a relatively lower price, but I feel like their price has moved up quite a bit.
The challenge with them is, I think it's because, we were so used to them at this one price, and that was sort of like the thing that they were so hailed for. But that movement, the Neomatic movements, are ultra thin. Yeah. And I think you kind of like, they are totally make sense as $4,000 watches, but like I agree, like I want to buy a $2,000 Nomos. I don't know why. I haven't quite gotten there yet. All right. I feel like they also, could expand more on their models rather than just sort of change colors and things like that. And like maybe there'll be one that they come out with like that's you're like, yeah, of course that's a $5,000 watch, like or whatever. Yeah. At least that though they did something different. I mean, like ultra thin movements are really you don't come by ultra thin automatics at least. Often. Yeah. So
no, it's definitely worth the money. It's just
Do you remember way back in the day, though, it wasn't like something that we all talked about, like, oh, does it have an in-house movement? Or does it, like, I feel like it just wasn't as, like, when I hear people talk about this now, like, oh, that's a great watch, it's got an in-house movement, it kind of tells me, like, when you got into the game, right? Like, that's like a newer thing, and this is newer, and I see a lot of this from, like, YouTube personalities and all this kind of stuff. We got comments about some YouTubers, but I'll leave that out. But I think, this tells me this is like a sign of, well, why? Why is it? It's really hard to make a better movement than a 2.824, to be perfectly honest. And I don't think there's any shame in like saying, well, yeah, of course it's a great movement. It's tried and true. It's tested. It's going to like be repairable, replaceable, all this kind of stuff well into the future. And like we didn't need to go through all these hoops just to like say it's an in-house movement. And that doesn't just automatically make it a great watch or a great movement. And I think that has to be understood. Just because it's in-house does not mean it's it's better.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know if you were planning on saying this already, Blake, but before the podcast over, I would really like Zach Kazan to say something controversial. Like incredibly.
I've got a hot take. I've been waiting to.
All right,
are we at the point where we give our own hot takes?
lay
Drop it
your
like
hot
it's
take.
hot.
Lay your hot take on us, Zach Kazan.
I think I've talked with you guys about this. I've definitely talked with my local watch group friends about it, but I do not like NATO straps. I think NATO straps.
Whoa,
sloppy.
there it is.
Wow,
I'm
hottest
not-
of the
not
hot
into that
takes.
at all.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
No nylon straps, or specifically NATO style with the double over.
So just fabric straps in general. I tried really hard this summer with my Speedmaster with a NATO strap all summer because I didn't want to wear it on the bracelet. The bracelet's not I'm not a fan of it, and it's too hot and humid for leather. So I thought, okay, this is it. This is the summer, the summer of NATO straps. I'm gonna do it. I'm really gonna try. And I couldn't wait to put that thing back on leather.
What is
I
it
just didn't
specifically?
What kind of strap?
look
What
or
are we
the
talking
feel?
about?
it's the look. I just think it looks kind of sloppy. I don't think it looks
Okay. So,
good.
but
I
he's
don't
too
think-
nice when we're all sitting here wearing watches on NATO straps, and he's now you guys look like idiots.
Yeah.
Or that looks terrible. He doesn't even
These are
mention
the
it.
thoughts running through my brain constantly.
Zach's just I
That's
can't wait to
wow.
get back to my faux gator stamped leather strap. That's a straight 22 millimeters.
Very stiff.
Straight 22.
Very stiff.
Very stiff.
Yeah, really,
On a
really
deployant.
a lot of padding around the lug, so it kind of stands up off your wrist. I love it when watches do that.
Oh man.
Interesting.
That's a good hot take, though. 'cause
That's a
it's
good
crazy.
take, Zach.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, that's my hottest take. I don't have a hotter take than that.
Yeah.
I like it.
Wow.
All right, Blake Mallon. Did you leave us a hot take yet?
Gosh, I said I don't like pointer dates.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I have any. I mean, I'm sure I do if I gave it some more time, but I mean, right now, I don't think that I really have too many hot takes.
All right.
it's on the spot.
Yeah.
All right, Zach
don't
Weiss,
know.
you got any hot takes you want to lay down?
Did I not already? God, I think I put myself in a situation here where now I don't know if I have a hot take that I'm ready. I'm not hot and ready. Yeah.
So I'm the only one that'll get hate mail, I guess, is the take.
I put mine out there real early. I don't care for the exhibition case back stuff.
Okay, yeah. Here's one.
Yeah.
Dials that are completely minimal, sans markers. Who are we kidding? That is ridiculous. Get rid of it. Moser. I know everyone loves Moser. Why would you spend $60,000 on a dial with no markers on it?
Markers with no hour.
Come
marker,
on, come on, people.
I agree
It's a
with
really
that.
accurate movement that you have no idea what the freaking minute is. So
Just
okay.
trust us. It's accurate.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that.
I don't know.
I like that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I always look at them like, why?
All right.
It's pretty specific. That was kind of a cop out, but whatever.
Now we'll take it. All right, and finally, a shout out, Faustin Photography. The Apple Watch is extremely useful, and it's hard for me to put on a mechanical instead.
Wow.
I can respect
Real
that.
vulnerability in our
Yeah.
in our Instagram.
Yeah.
That was the first one that wasn't hate. I was this is dumb. It was it's very honest. I'm like,
Yeah.
Positive.
Yeah. You know what? And I'll give you that. I wear my Apple Watch quite often for very specific activities, and I like it. We even have a guy in our office, Quentin. He wears the Apple Watch. He's been working for us for a minute now, and he doesn't. We've been trying to get him over,
Yeah.
but
no.
he's just it's useful, and that's fine.
He has gotten really good at politely saying that he has no interest in watches. Yeah, it's very funny.
Well, that's fine. All right. Well, if you wrote in with your hot take, thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry if we didn't get to yours. We had literally pages and pages of them, and some of them I think we will kind of hold on to and use for fodder in future for podcasts. If you were offended by any of the takes that we had today, you can email Zach Kazan.
My DMs are open.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Okay. Well, hopefully if you're in the New York area, we'll see you at Wind Up just in a few days as this goes live.
Yeah.
And if not, maybe we will come into your neck of the woods. If we have no plans to do that, drop us a note. Let us know where you are, and we'll see if we can make it work. Until then, thanks for listening. Until next time.